that I've been experiencing pain on my right hip for a few years now, and I've had physical therapy, I've had injections of steroids, I've done everything that I can think of to do to help with the pain. And she suggested Lee Albert's book and to do these exercises, so I've been pretty diligent about doing that, and I'm happy to report that I'm finally feeling much better. So I encourage these, and I wouldn't teach them to you if I didn't think that they were effective. So the standard treatment for hip pain or bursitis is typically doing some pain medications, using nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory agents or steroids, sometimes surgery. And of course, I wanted to try to avoid all these things by just doing some simple exercises that I'll be showing you today. These exercises are intended to strengthen the muscles that are weak and lengthen the muscles that are short and weak and shorten the muscles that are too long. So just to create some nice balance in that hip region. So we'll start by doing 4 different stretches to balance the pelvis. And then we'll be doing exercises that help to slacken and strengthen. If you think about a rubber band being pulled too tightly, and you invite the fingers to come closer and create a little bit of slack in that space, that's what slackening is, taking off some of that tension of that from that muscle region. So first we're going to start by the 4 exercises for the hip, for the pelvis. So you want to do each of these if you can, 3 times a day, which would be optimal, and hold each pose for at least a minute. All right, so I might not go through an entire minute just for teaching purposes, but you can certainly go back, review it, and put the video on pause if you like, so that you can hold each of these poses for 1 minute. Okay, so the first one is to do a stretch of what's called the quadratus lumborum muscle, and that's the muscle that's right here in the side waistline, a little bit toward the back. So I have 2 ways of showing you. One is a way that is if your body is feeling relatively fit and strong, and the other is a modified version. So the first version would be to stand in your mountain pose with your feet hip distance apart, grounded and rooted, and slowly reach the arms up overhead and clasp the hands together. Maybe the finger wants to point up. Reach the arms up overhead as far as is comfortable for your shoulders. Lengthen out through the spine. Draw the belly in and up and crescent over toward that left side. So we're stretching out through the whole left side of the body. And I'll hold this posture for a minute. Now, if this does not feel good on your shoulders, you can let your right arm just kind of rest on the top of the head, drape on the top of the head, and the left arm will hang down and reach toward the heels. So this is your modified version. Regardless, you want to draw that belly in and up and keep a strong core while you're working this first pose. So then when that is finished, carefully come back to neutral, realign the spine, shake it out, and then go to the other side, slowly reaching the arms up overhead, clasp the hands, reach and lengthen, root the feet down, draw that belly in and up, and crescent over toward the other side. Breathing in and breathing out. We don't want to hold the breath. Continue to breathe comfortably and naturally, and use your breath as your barometer. And again, if that's too much on the shoulders, reach that right arm down and drape the left arm gently over the head. The intention of the posture is to stretch the side body. One more breath here, and then lower the arm down, gently lift back up. And while you're doing that, if you could notice one side versus the other, if one side feels a little bit tight, a little bit tense, I'm having those challenges on this side, so naturally I'm going to feel a little more effort, a little more stuff going in on this side. Okay, the next one would be the stretch for the thigh muscle or the quad muscle. So you're going to hold on to a wall or a chair and bend one of your legs and reach down and reach for the foot. Now, if you can't grab it, you can use a strap, a bathrobe tie, a men's tie. something like that. But what you want to try to do is to get the knees to align with each other. So press the foot into the hand into the foot for 5 seconds to engage the muscles of the legs. Take a full breath in, and after 5 seconds, release the pressure of the hand and the foot and allow the heel to come even closer to the buttock. And see if you can't send your hip points forward a little bit to see if you can accentuate that stretch in your quad if you're not feeling a whole lot. Now the modification for that is to bring the top of the foot onto the back of a chair or a ottoman, something like that. Press the foot into the chair into the foot, engage the muscles. You'll feel the thigh muscle fire up, hold it there for a bit, and then try to lean back a little bit into that as you send your hip points forward. May get a little bit of engagement in the glutes as you press the hip points forward a little bit, just until you feel something in that quad. And then we'll go to the other side. So holding on to a chair, holding on to something for stability, bend the other knee. And if that doesn't work, you're going to use your strap. Then we'll press that foot into the leg, the foot into the hand into the foot. Engage for at least 5 seconds. So you're really feeling the muscle of the thigh muscle engage. And then release that and bring the heel up even closer to the buttock. And then again, if that doesn't work, the top of the foot will rest on top of a chair. Press the foot into the chair into the foot, engage the muscles of the legs, take a breath in. Wait that full 5 seconds, and then see if you can't send those hip points forward just a little bit until you feel something that feels like a good stretch in your thigh. Oftentimes our thighs and our quads are really, really tight and strong, but they're not flexible. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is what we call a psoas stretch. So what you'll do is place one foot up on the chair, and the other foot will go behind the body. So you may need to step that foot back just a little bit, squeeze that back glute, and send the hip points forward as you lean back just a little bit, not crunching the lower spine. So lift and lengthen the spine, keep the core engaged, and just send that whole hip structure forward so you're getting a nice stretch in the psoas muscle here. So we have a modification for this pose. That would be standing in a standing camel. So if your fists reach behind you, and you can actually support the lower back by pressing in and up, elbows draw toward each other, use the support of the fist in the lower back, lengthen up through the spine, pressing the fists into that lower back, lift up through the heart space, and send your pelvis forward. So you're still getting a nice stretch here in the psoas or in the hip flexors. And release that. We'll do the other side. So sending the other foot forward and the back foot back behind you so that it's not directly under your pelvis but behind you. Squeeze that back glute to engage the muscles, and then a little bit of back, leaning back. You can hold on to the chair, to the wall. I'm holding on to the fireplace mantle, sending those hip points forward, feeling a nice stretch in my hip flexor. Breathing in and breathing out. Good. And release that. Okay. Another one that we'll do is to stretch out the hip abductor. So I'm going to show you the modification first because that's sitting in a chair. So we'll be sitting on a chair or something stable, and it's simply a matter of crossing one leg over the other, holding on to the top of the knee or shin, drawing that knee in toward the chest, and looking for that stretch in the side of the hip. If your hips are really, really tight, then this may be enough of a stretch for you. Holding it for 1 minute, doing both sides. All right, and the other is getting down on the floor. So I'm going to be getting down on the floor. And lean it forward just a little bit. So take a moment to get yourself comfortable on the floor. Starting with the knees bent, and then see if it's possible to extend your left leg and place the right foot, the sole of the foot, on top of the left leg. Use your left hand to draw the right knee toward the floor, getting a nice stretch across the outside of that right hip. The shoulders are working in the direction of the floor if that feels okay for you. Continue breathing. Now press the hand into the leg and the leg into the hand as you try to reach the knee up toward the ceiling, but you're resisting it with your left hand. Hold that for 5 seconds and then release that and allow the knee to release further toward the earth. And after a minute, slowly lift back up and we'll go to the other side. So extend the right leg down. The left foot rests on top of the right leg. The right hand reaches for that left foot, takes that left leg over to the left side. Shoulders continue to reach for the earth unless it's too much for the spine. Press the hand into the leg into the hand as the knee reaches towards the sky, but that right hand is resisting it. Hold that for 5 seconds. And then take a breath and let that go. Get a little bit more movement as you get that knee to come toward the earth. Holding that for 1 solid minute. And then after a minute, bring those knees back up. Draw the knees into the chest. Just rock back and forth a little bit. Okay. So those are the 4 exercises for balancing the pelvis to start. Now we have 4 other exercises to do to strengthen and slacken. Okay, so the first one is to slacken the hip flexors. And this one you're going to love because it's really one of the most comfortable and easiest things to do. So we're trying to slacken these hip flexors. So we're going to bring our knees up onto a chair or an ottoman or a bed, and we're trying to get those knees and the hip to be at a 90 degree angle. So you're looking for something that the legs can be lifted up high enough so that you're at a pretty relative 90 degree angle. So your legs can be up on a chair or up on a stool, and then just release, relax, and let go. And if you could stay here for up to 5 minutes, that would be ideal. And just breathing into those hip flexors, allowing those muscles to relax. That's slackening those hip flexors. When our hip flexors, our psoas muscle is really tight, it pulls on the lower back. And a lot of times that's cause for some of the pain in our lower back. Another exercise we'll do is to strengthen the hip extensors, which are your hamstrings and your gluteus maximus. And that's in the form of a typical bridge pose. Okay, so coming into bridge pose, lay on your back with your knees bent and keep your feet about hip distance apart. Your feet are as close to your hips as comfortable for your knees. Bend at your elbows with your palms facing each other across your torso and snuggle your shoulder blades behind your back. Press your feet and the backs of your arms into the earth. Make sure your neck is relaxed and soft, that your head is not too high on a pillow so your chin is into your chest or looking away from you. So if you need some support behind your head, make sure it keeps your neck in line with your spine. And then when you're ready, press your feet and the backs of the arms into the earth and lift your hips and torso up off of the earth. This is now stretching and strengthening the hamstrings and the glutes. If you'd like to interlace your hands behind your back, you can continue to snuggle your shoulder blades under your back to get that hip to lift a little bit higher. If it's hard for you to isolate the hamstrings and the glutes, it might help you to put a block or a pillow between your thighs and go ahead and squeeze or isometrically squeeze the legs toward each other. It's going to help you just to strengthen those muscles. We're going to try to hold this up to a minute. You may have to build up to this. You might not be able to do the whole minute right away, but little by little, you'll get there. And then bring the shoulder blades away from each other and lower the hips back down. Draw those knees into the chest. Just rock back and forth. Okay, the last two are going to require that you are sitting in a chair, and you'll need a pillow. So the first one we do is to slacken the inner thighs. Slacken again. We're going to let those muscles just kind of draw in toward each other. And this is just a simple matter of, I'm going to sit back just a little bit more. Bringing the knees together and inner spiral, inner rotate the inner thighs and pigeon toe the feet. And then just relax into this, breathing in and breathing out, letting those muscles relax. We're not holding on to any tension. And again, can be sometimes the cause of lower back pain or hip pain. So just spend the next minute here, breathing into this space, taking the strain off the lower back and the knees and the groin. And don't ever do this in a standing position, only while you're sitting. While you're in this posture, just be mindful of the types of things that you do throughout the course of the day. What are some of the causes of your hip pain? What are some of the habits that you have that put you in this position of having pain in the first place? So when you're driving in a bucket seat, that automatically internally rotates your legs sometimes because you're kind of in this bucket and the hips turn toward each other. And then notice if when you're driving and you're pressing on the gas pedal, does your whole leg rotate out to the side? What's going on with the way your foot and ankle are in relation to each other? Next time you get in the car, can you sit up nice and tall, set your rear view mirror, and try to keep your foot facing forward and your toes pointing straight up when you're pressing the gas. The other leg would be comfortably at a 90-degree angle or 45-degree angle, and the leg, instead of rotating out, maybe trying to keep that straight as well. As you're driving and you notice there's a change in the rear view mirror, maybe you're starting to sink down and round the back and you feel, oh, my rear view mirror has changed. Don't change the rear view mirror. Lengthen the spine back up. Say, this is the posture I intend to use while I'm driving. Or how are you sitting when you're at your computer? Are you sitting at your computer with your hips and knees in good alignment? Or are your knees up towards your chest, creating a tightness in the hip flexors? Are you rounding your back, stretching out through the lower back, rounding your shoulders, creating some tightness in the shoulders? Do you have your head forward as you're trying to jut your chin forward, trying to read the monitor? So really paying attention. Do you need to lift your computer up, get it a little bit higher? Are the shoulders soft and the elbows at a 90-degree angle? And are the hips and torso, the legs and torso at a 90-degree angle? So just really paying attention to some of the things that you repeatedly do day after day. All right, so the last exercise we have is to strengthen the inner thighs, strengthen the adductors. And remember, adductors is when we're using the muscles that draw our legs toward each other. We're adding to ourselves, right, toward ourselves. The abductors, abductors, are the muscles we use to take those legs apart from each other. So this one is getting the feet hip distance apart and simply squeezing the legs toward each other, keeping the feet in alignment. So squeezing the legs toward each other, engaging the muscles of the inner thigh, holding that for at least 5 seconds, and then pausing for 5 seconds. The pause is as important as the press. Then press again for 5 seconds, squeezing that pillow or foam block between your thighs, and then pausing for 5 seconds. And what you're reaching for is a set of 10, and then eventually trying to do 5 sets of 10, and that's really going to strengthen those inner thighs. So just to reiterate, the 4 muscles exercises that you're going to do to help balance the pelvis. And then the 4 other exercises that you do to slacken and strengthen. Okay, so good luck. And if you can do it 3 times a day, 1 minute for each exercise, great. It will get easier as you remember to go through the exercise. Sometimes you can even do them while you're waiting in line at the grocery store or